Good evening, or good afternoon, wherever you happen to be. And welcome once again to Fired Up. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin. We are coming to you from the studios of the American Guns and Glory Network here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Fired Up is about guns, related political issues, and predominantly self-defense issues. The show is about, Fired Up is available on our website, firedupwithbobirwin.com. And we post a new show every Thursday around 5 p.m., which is what's happening with this one now. The show also appears on YouTube and numerous other media. We let everybody run it if they want to, for just telling people where it is. And so you can find that it's broadcast several places that I'm not even familiar with. I see it places that I never knew it was there. The show audio feed is broadcast for radio listeners Saturdays at noon on the Nevada Talk Network. They are 10 or 11 stations now all over Nevada, all broadcast at the same time. You can find the list at KELY1230.com, which is on your screen now. Questions or comments can be directed to me at bob@firedupmail.com, emails, or leave a message on my office recorder, which is 702-257-1060, which will appear on your screen from time to time. If you leave contact information, we will answer you back and help with your questions or comments as we can. There are several hundred defensive uses of firearms every week in the United States, rarely covered by the mainstream media, as most gun folks know. They only cover the bad stuff. So we always do 2 or 3 of those for our listeners' education. Some are good shootings, some are bad shootings, some are questionable, some are just plain wrong. But they're all educational to firearms owners. We tend to leave the names out and only put in where the jurisdiction is, so you can get an idea of what the local laws are. We are a nationwide show. The advice we give generally is based on Nevada law or California law, depending on the guest or the attorney that we have on with us. The results may not apply to you in other jurisdictions. If you are actively involved in a case, you've shot somebody, you're being sued over something that has to do with the firearm storage or whatever, you need to address it with local counsel, a local criminal defense attorney. We can help you find one of those if you wish. You can contact me at the same places, and we'll put you on to an attorney in your jurisdiction that handles those types of cases. My guest today is firearms instructor Lenny Davis. Once again, Lenny, if you would, a bit of your background for any new listeners we may have.
Sure, Bob. I'm Lenny Davis. I'm a retired special agent with the Department of Homeland Security. Been a law enforcement firearms instructor since 1980. I'm currently a instructor for the State Department's Global Anti-Terrorism Assistance Program, and I am a owner and Chief Operating Officer of SRT Special Services. We're a full-service security, private investigations, and training company here in Las Vegas. We specialize in training, firearms training from civilians all the way up into the military.
All right. This first story is from Yukon. It's from Yukon, Oklahoma, actually. This is on the 30th of July, a month ago, this year, from News, Oklahoma. A man was caught Friday afternoon after a homeowner reportedly caught him trying to burglarize his home in the 4,000 block of Stonebridge Circle. Oklahoma City Police arrived at the home about 1:10 p.m. to find the homeowner holding the 44-year-old suspect at gunpoint. The resident told police he was working in his home office just before 1 p.m. when he heard an open door chime from his security system. He went the chime went off again a few moments later, and he closed the door the first time. I'm getting ahead of myself on a paragraph here. He went and closed the door. We found it open. He went a second time after it went off again, and as he's shutting the door, he saw the door handle start to turn the other direction. He quickly locked the door and ran to get his gun. He returned to the now reopened door, and an intruder stepped into the garage, which is where he was. The garage is an attached garage to a home. The intruder stepped in, saw the resident, and ran through the garage's back door into the backyard. The resident caught the suspect in his backyard and ordered him to the ground at gunpoint. We'll discuss that plan later on. The suspect started to rise up on his hand, and the resident accidentally fired his gun into the grass, but not near where the suspect was, he quickly laid back down and did not move. A neighbor came outside and called 911. Police found a makeshift burglar's mask around the suspect's neck, binoculars by the backyard fence, and a pair of gray gloves. He was booked into the county jail. All well and good. He chased the suspect out of the home. That's really risky, as regular listeners know. If you're safe and he's running, what are you going to gain? But nobody likes finding intruders trying to get in their house, and you want to do something about it. So he chased the guy out. Now, besides all the things that could go wrong in that pursuit, the resident has an accidental discharge. Now, you got to imagine you're all pumped up. Fortunately, he wasn't pointing the gun directly at the suspect. When he had the AD, he touched the trigger, no doubt, not realizing he was touching it. You're about 150 times stronger than you normally are with your adrenaline running. Apparently, it didn't hit anything vital, and it caused the neighbor to show up and call 911. All in all, this is a great, reasonable self-defense. We'll talk about the pursuit. But the issue here that comes up fairly often is you now have an accidental discharge because you're so pumped up. Fortunately, he wasn't pointing the gun at the bad guy's face when that happened. Mr. Davis.
We train and train and train. I will tell you, especially when we start talking about combat, defensive handgun, defensive rifle for civilians, shotgun, or we're talking about tactical training for SWAT teams. It's always keep your finger off the trigger till you know what you're going to shoot at and you're prepared to shoot. Obviously, like Bob said, you're so full of adrenaline, you don't realize how strong you are. And if you touch that trigger, and even a revolver, an older revolver will take 8 or 9 pounds of pressure. That's nothing when you're full of adrenaline. This was two things that I really see out of this. One, the threat's gone out of your house. Yeah, you want to go catch him. The son of a gun got in my house, and I want him. I want him now. But the problem becomes you don't know what you're moving into. You move him out of the house. You get him out of this, in this case, the garage into the backyard. Does he have 3 or 4 accomplices with him? And you go from being, you've got this guy on the run and out of the threat's gone, but you're chasing him. Now you're going to put yourself in a bad situation. We always like to pursue people when we're in law enforcement. We try to do that, but we also know that there's a time and place to suspend that. If it's this situation, this guy doesn't know what he's going to run into. The threat's gone. He's out of his house. The guy's going to get convicted for a burglary if the police call him. At this point, now you become a good witness. Hold what you have. You have this guy out of your house. Lock your house down. Call 911 and have the police show up. Hold that. If the guy tries to kick back in the door, that's a different problem. That's an entirely different situation. But in this situation, he's got the threat's been moved. The threat's gone. This guy's out of the house. He's on his way, probably running like hell. And, this guy chased after him. Luckily, like Bob said, he wasn't pointing the weapon at the guy. And when he had this unintentional discharge, it's not an accidental discharge. The only time that's an accidental discharge if something actually breaks in a weapon. which almost never happens. They're considered unintentional discharges. So this guy had a UD, and luckily for this burglar, and the burglar was smart because as soon as he fired the round, he got down on the ground and didn't move, and he was taken into custody. But this could have been very, very bad.
Yeah, this was not, you always want to say, when you're safe, never pursue. And this next case, actually, I have to agree the guy should have pursued. And there have never been two of these engagements ever that are exactly the same. The details always matter. That's why we don't just have a rule book, we have juries. It's here we go. This is from WEB-TV2 in Newton County. I didn't write the date on this. It was about 2 weeks ago. Should have got that on the proofreading that I didn't put the date. Oh, well. A father said he had to pull out his gun to protect his family when he saw a naked man at Trailblazer Park. I'm going to have to write myself a note when I put this up on the website. It's going to be have a date on it. The father was at a local park with his two children, his mother and his grandmother, when a 21-year-old naked man approached the group. The father told the man to leave several times. The man left the park around 5:30 p.m., but then came back. Not only did he come back still naked, he ran directly up to my kids and the mother of my child, and they were frightened, the father said. I asked him, would you please leave the scene? You're causing trouble. You don't even have any clothes on. The father told Covington police that his grandmother called 911 while he chased the man. Officers arrived within minutes and ordered the father to put down his gun. He complied, and the naked guy got up, ran away again, and jumped into the local river that runs through the park. The other officers then arrested the suspect, charging him with child molestation, public indecency, and being under the influence of alcohol or drugs. The father told the media, had I not been licensed to carry at that moment, who knows what this guy would have done to my family or any other families that were there. Again, I say it's always dangerous to chase suspects, but in this case, it seems to me to be totally justified. We've got a wacko, drunk pervert running up to children in this park. He seems to be determined to cause some harm to these children if this citizen does not intervene. You look at this, and he chased the guy. If he'd shot the guy because the guy then attacked him, if I was on the jury, he'd walk.
Yeah.
I think the pursuit was justified.
Here again, it comes down to, when I taught a lot of classes, especially when I was teaching CCW, I was saying, I would always put it out to my students, what if you're sitting at home and suddenly your door's kicked in and the guy standing there is stark naked, doesn't have a weapon, but he's stark naked. What do? And most of them go, well, you can't shoot him. And I go, well, technically, but if a guy's crazy enough to be naked, number one, and break your door down, he's crazy enough to hurt, he's probably on some sort of alcohol or drugs, combination of all of it, and maybe a little natural craziness. At that point, you yell at him, get out. And if he continues to come at you, I'm myself am going to press the trigger on him because I don't know how strong he is. I have seen a law enforcement officer in my career. I've seen people that have been on the influence of PCP, angel dust. They are incredibly strong. I've seen the same thing with meth, and I've seen the same thing with steroid abusers. They become incredibly strong, incredibly aggressive, incredibly agitated, and they don't think. They will try to attack you. So this guy here, when he came back and came at my family, I might have at that point pulled a gun on him and said, go away. And if he'd have continued to go, I might have had to use deadly force.
I just, like I said, all shootings are different.
Yeah.
And there have never been two that have been the same, ever. The sizes of the individuals, the ages, the distance, the weapons or no weapons, and what's said, if the guy's mentally ill or drunk or, whatever, they're always different. And that's why we make attorneys, and that's why we have juries. And, you try to give warnings where you can. Who in their right mind were on this guy's jury when he chased this guy who jumped in a river, would find that he, if he'd been chasing him and he hadn't jumped in a river and they'd gotten into a fight and he'd hurt the guy, is this armed citizen at fault for chasing this suspect? Absolutely not. Anybody in their right mind would have chased him down to hold him for the police. Anybody. So it's a good pursuit. We got a commercial space here there, my man?
You
Or
bet. Yeah.
charge on. Hi, I'm Bob Irwin, and I get to do my own commercial. The short version is I've had 50 years experience in firearms, firearm repair, firearm design, 30,000 CCW holders I've personally taught, 20,000 security officers, etc. Taught in 28 police academies, firearms and use force. I've also appeared more than 200 times in gun-related cases in federal, state, and local court. I wrote this book, The Reality of Armed Self-Defense, because it answers virtually all the questions that I get every time I talk to people, answers questions that come in the emails. It will tell you what you need to know to keep yourself out of prison if you get involved in a self-defense shooting case, keep from losing your house in a civil lawsuit. There are lots of things I've learned over these years and watched people make a lot of mistakes. This book will save you a lot. If you purchase one, read through it, I'm sure you will find it enlightening. And it'll save me a lot of time on these shows trying to explain to people what they did wrong and what they shouldn't have done and so forth and so on. So you can buy it by sending me the funds at the address below, bob@firedupmail.com, or leave a message on my phone number there, which is 702-257-1060. I will return your calls and tell you where to mail the money and so forth and so on. They're available on my website also, which is attached to this regular show. Cost is $15. I said add for postage if you live outside the immediate 50 states, and I will get it to you first class mail. Thank you for listening. This book will save you a lot of hassle. Thanks. And we are back. My favorite commercial. We're going to talk later about a gun show we're going to be at this next weekend, and we will have the books on sale and autographed if you'd like here in Las Vegas. This is from 5 on Your Side TV, reported July 30th of 2018. This is in St. Louis, Missouri. A violent attack in South St. Louis left a man dead. The incident happened in the 3700 block of Texas Street on Friday evening. A witness said they saw a man speeding down the street. And the witness is pointing at the spot. He said he jumped out of his car right here and appeared to have a weapon on his hip, carrying an open carry holster. The witness added, "We were working late and a guy comes around the corner speeding, obviously intoxicated. He was screaming and yelling at somebody. I don't know who it was, but he was there to cause a problem for somebody." The St. Louis police said he forced his way into a home on that block. An argument broke out. There was a struggle, and the 58-year-old was shot by that homeowner. His female partner, 14 years, said they knew this is of the partner of the shooter, said they knew the intruder and that he had struggled with drinking and mental illness. She added he battled with schizophrenia. You know, he would have confrontations. Maybe you get into a fight or something, but I never dreamed it would escalate so far that I would lose him. The person who pulled the trigger is not being charged with a crime. However, homicide detectives are investigating to see if the case falls under Missouri's Stand Your Ground law. From what we have here, it certainly would fall under a Stand Your Ground law. This is another incident of a seriously mentally ill person attacking for reasons only known to himself. A common thread in many self-defense shootings is the mental illness of the attacker. We've seen that over and over again with high publicity shootings, in school shootings particularly. The left side politicians seem to be so worried about the rights of the mentally ill to be out in society that we have now a long chain of victims are in their graves. Obviously something needs to be done to handle mentally ill persons and to keep them, once they're adjudicated mentally ill, keep them away from guns. And we're looking at these laws that come out now that say, well, you know, you should be checked for mental illness, and that's one the left jumps on right away, that you know, you can't because they have a right to be out in society and so forth and so on. And most of them aren't dangerous, but some of them are. And laws that would weed those out, to me, are a relatively valid thing, provided there's a way to reverse it.
Well, and here's the thing that I see. I started in law enforcement and was a young military policeman in the 1970s. There was a lot of social change then. You look at a lot of things that were prior to then. If you were crazy and you were running around and you were threatening people, you usually got shipped off to a mental institution, and sometimes rightfully so. And there was no doubt cases where that was maybe not as needed as possible as the it was done, but nonetheless, there are somewhere in the neighborhood of 500,000 less fewer mental illness beds in this country than there were in the 1960s. Where are those people? They're on the street. Some of them go, they get picked up, they get put on a 72-hour hold, which is usually pretty much the standard. A lot of times they're seen by medical professionals. They're given medication. They're sent back out in the street. They're given the medication to take. They don't take it. They sell it. They do whatever. And the mental illness continues to just roll over and roll over. If you want to see a case of mental illness, yesterday they released some of the interview tapes of the Parkland, Florida shooter. It doesn't take a PhD in psychology to realize that this kid had some problems and they were never properly dealt with, which leads me back to thank God that this man, this homeowner, lived in a place, unlike some places in California on either one of the coasts, where it's nearly impossible to own a gun even in your home. And luckily he had one to defend himself, because this man had a gun. We won't know. The investigator's going to look into it. Obviously, he was armed, and they're going to try to find out where the gun came from. I guarantee you there's a really probably better than 50-50 chance that because this man was, even though he had mental, his friends said he dealt with alcohol and mental illness issues for years, I'd almost guarantee you he was never adjudicated mentally ill or deficient, and in that case could probably bought that gun legally, or he could have got it like everybody gets theirs in Chicago, where they steal them or they buy them off the black market. Gun control, folks, doesn't work if you haven't noticed. Rahm Emanuel, a mayor of Chicago, is trying to get reelected, but the bodies keep stacking up. So this gun, you can't legislate people sane. You got to give the medical and the legal profession the ability to put someone in a mental hospital for more than 72 hours, get them treated, get them on a path of treatment. You can't just throw pills at them in 72 hours and they're going to be fine when they go back on the street. And here's a perfect case of that.
Yeah, we're going to, I don't know what the right answer is, but the right answer isn't to leave the mentally ill out on the street. If they don't get guns, which is what we deal with, they get cars, they drive over people, they stab people. It's just on and on and on. We've had 4 officer-involved shootings where Metro shot somebody, or Metro PD locally here shot somebody in the last 2 weeks. And most of them were mentally ill subjects that, what do you do? And the I'm not sure what the right answer is, but Lenny may be going the right direction. I believe that we need a way to screen through these people. The trick is that once they're better and the psychiatrist, psychologist shows they're better, they release them. And the people that are truly nuts stay in some type of mental health facility that we are overflowing now everywhere, apparently. So the left gets its wish. The mentally ill are treated like any other citizen. And unfortunately, in some cases, that doesn't work. We need to have professional people look at these guys. This upcoming weekend, August 25 and 26, the Crossroads of the West Gun Show will be in town once again. It's downtown next to the Woodville Brain Center. It is on Grand Central Parkway, 209 Grand Central Parkway. That's the main drag that goes into downtown from Charleston and so forth. And it will run you right into the building. You can't miss it. There'll be big signs as you get to the end of it that say turn here. The parking's free. We will have our new gear out. We've got boonie hats and baseball hats and T-shirts and whatever that can be autographed. And by that point in time, we should have coffee mugs out too. And my book's on sale that you saw in the previous commercial. I would like you to be able to get some of this memorabilia to help keep the shows on the air and help keep me in potato chips and whatever else. You can check our website, firedupwithboberwin.com, next week. We've got the stuff here. We're going to do pictures tonight or tomorrow and get them pictures of everything up on the air and prices. Some of the stuff I brought in with me, I just picked them up. I don't even have the invoice yet, so I don't know what we're going to sell stuff for, but we'll know by the time we put them on the website.
Do I get an employee discount?
No, but I'm going to double your salary to
wow.
take care of it.
Thank you so much.
Another note here, while we're at it, if you need a commercial for television or the internet, you might try Rigel Studios. This is where we film Fired Up, and you can reach them through the website. They do everything in high def, and it's really first-class equipment. You can find them at www.rigelstudios.tv, which is on your screen now. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully we'll see you at the gun show on the end of this month. And again, that's at the Pavilions on 209 Grand Central Parkway, right in the middle of downtown. Can't miss it. Hopefully we'll see you there. Don Green will be there with me, and we'll give you all the free advice you could possibly want. Have a good evening. Thanks for watching.